Hi, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from RicoScores. I'm sorry I'm coming out with this video so late. But then again, there's my late crowd out there. Shouts out to y'all, man. We're here to talk about how Samuel Cosmi is apparently the third best guard in the entire NFL according to Pro Football Focus. We're going to break down their entire guard rankings, at least the top few that matter. We're going to break down what they had to say about Samuel Cosmi, why they felt that way. And then now we also have to dive into whether Samuel Cosmi is the best player on the Commanders or not. I've been talking about this for the past few months since the last season ended, and I kept saying that I've been, gathering some stats together. Eventually, I'm going to put out a video proving that Samuel Cosmi is the best player on our team, and I feel like this catalyst coming from the Pro Football Focus article was the perfect time to go ahead and knock this out. And I also have a lot of advanced stats, we got grades, we got all kinds of things. So before we dive into all of that, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release informative and opinionated videos just like this one. Again, I'm coming to y'all with at least a video a day, even though technically I'm recording this at it's 11:48 p.m. Eastern time right now. So technically this video is going to come out tomorrow, but y'all get the point, man. I'm always going to stay on it. One-stop shop for everything Commanders. Of course, we've only had access, as far as the rest of the media, us fans, anybody, have only had access to 3 out of the 10 practices that the Commanders have had so far. But when they do give us access, y'all know me, man, I'm gonna give y'all updates. I'm gonna show y'all the clips from the practice, break it down position group by position group and everything. And then also when we get to this dead period after mandatory minicamp, 6-week break going into training camp, I will start doing those rookie film sessions for the rookie class and some notable undrafted free agents. And again, I have so many video ideas that even during that dead period for the Commanders, I'm gonna make sure I'm still coming out with daily content for y'all. But I do want to get back to the point where I'm doing multiple videos in a day. But I'll also keep y'all updated on the free agency signings, anybody getting cut, like how we had to cut Brandon McManus, any front office hires, anything like that. So make sure you stay tuned. And without further ado, instead of wasting more of y'all time, let's go ahead and get it, man. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so as you can see on the screen right now, Pro Football Focus put out their top guards out of the entire NFL. Not just right guards, not just left guards, all guards in the entire NFL. They have Samuel Cosmi third, only behind Chris Lindstrom of the Falcons and Joe Thuney of the Chiefs. Then they have Tyler Smith fourth, Quinn Martinez from the Broncos fifth, then Kevin Zeitler sixth, Zach Martin seventh, and then Joel Bitonio eighth. I believe they had Joel Bitonio maybe 1 or 2 last year. Maybe I'm tripping, but they definitely had him somewhere high up there. Shouts out to the Chiefs too, because the Chiefs have multiple ridiculous offensive linemen. But I know y'all see that boy Samuel Cosmi third right there, which takes me to the Pro Football Focus article. Again, they're going through and ranking every position group, and when they got to the guards, they did the top 32 ahead of the 2024 NFL season. And when you get to the third one, Samuel Cosmi, they said Cosmi was quietly one of the best guards in the entire NFL in 2023. His 80.6 Pro Football Focus grade ranked 5th at the position, and he had 7 games with an overall grade of 80 or higher. Despite that, Cosmi didn't garner the attention he deserved in his first full season as a starter. That's actually a great point too. This was Samuel Cosmi's first full season of being just a pure guard, and now look at him. Pro Football Focus national recognition for being at least a top 5 guard out of the entire NFL once we finally just picked the position for him and kept him there. Remember 2022, they did crazy damage to his development, completely stifled it by having him switching between tackle and guard, even within the same game at times, the same quarter, same possession, tackle one play, guard the next, all kinds of craziness. And I know his ceiling at tackle is very high, but if you want to just go ahead and play him at guard, make sure you decide on where he's going to be and you keep him there. So far, it looks like he's going to stay at guard for this next Commanders regime under Adam Peters, Dan Quinn, Cliff Kingsbury, and all of these guys. Keep him there. Don't do this flip-flopping around. And so shouts out to Pro Football Focus for again pointing out the fact that his first season just full-time as a guard. That's all he has to worry about. And again, like I've said in several videos before, when you're talking about, I know it's all offensive line, but there's a difference between guard and tackle. tackle as far as like how you diet, like certain things you eat, certain things you prioritize, like when it comes to strength, mobility, certain ways you practice, the drills, the nuance, hand placement, footwork, all of that type of stuff. There's just certain priorities that you have in your exercising and your working out and your diet that is just different if you're playing guard from tackle. And again, him having to juggle both at the same time just only did damage to his development. He would probably already have been at this point last year going into the 2023 season if we would have been just picked a position for him to play at and then keep him there. But thank goodness they finally did that. Now, finishing up the Pro Football Focus article, they said he spent most of his first 2 NFL seasons at right tackle for the Commanders before making the switch to inside guard in 2023. His 4.3 pressure rate allowed last year was the 19th lowest at the position. Hey man, shouts out to Pro Football Focus for the love and the attention right there, because it seems like a lot of Commanders players, especially Commanders greats, over a bunch of years now, even going back since before I was born, basically ever since we stopped winning Super Bowls, really, it just seems like great players have always been overlooked here. And so it's nice to see some national attention. We don't need it, but I would be lying to you if I said I didn't like it to see some of our players get national. Every time Terry McLaurin's brought up by somebody that's not a Commanders fan, a Commanders reporter, Commanders beat writer, just a national media member, a Pro Football Focus guy, a fantasy football type of guy, whenever Terry McLaurin gets some love, I absolutely love it. It warms my heart. Same thing with Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, and now you're starting to see some Samuel Cosmi love getting shown as well. I mean, but again, going back to history, like London Fletcher should easily be in the Hall of Fame. If he had the same exact stats that he has right now to end his career, but if we just won a little bit more, if we won some playoff games, at least made it deep into the playoffs, not even necessarily go to a Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl, but at least if we were consistently in the playoff consideration when he was here, he would for sure be a Hall of Famer right now. You can say that about a lot of the great players that we've had come in and out of here the past 30 years, again, going back to since before I was even born. And so I just love the fact that Samuel Cosmi getting some national recognition here. Maybe now that we're starting to get more national recognition, momentum starting to build, everybody's starting to see the vision that Adam Peters is putting together with the front office, the free agency, the draft that we put together, even the undrafted free agent class, we got recognized for that. So now maybe people are starting to pay attention. We have a face of the franchise and Jaden Daniels potentially. Quarterback is always going to be the way that your team finally gets national recognition. If your quarterback is not good, you're not going to get nationally televised games. You're not going to be on primetime games under the bright lights for everybody to see. And then that's how players get to be seen a little bit more, because, I mean, if Samuel Cosmi goes out there and dominates a really elite defensive tackle in the NFL, and like it's like a primetime game because everybody's coming to see Jaden Daniels versus Pat Mahomes, but then they leave walking away like, whoa, Samuel Cosmi did a great job against Chris Jones. They came for the quarterbacks, they left like, man, who was that right guard dominating or at least holding his own against one of the best interior defensive linemen out of the entire NFL? That's how it starts. But if people aren't watching our games other than Commanders fans and the team fans that we're going against at that time, that's why a lot of our players haven't gotten recognized. So Jaden Daniels being a face of the franchise, a personality that a lot of people like, him being exciting with his ability to use his legs, throw deep passes, all of these things matter as far as a team getting national recognition and being seen more often, being on more primetime games, Thursday night games, Sunday night games, where everybody's watching rather than our 1 p.m. games that we mostly play, where barely anybody else is watching, again, outside of the two teams' fan bases that are involved in that game. That's it. So now you're about to see a lot more players get more recognition, but also the fact that we brought in all of these notable veteran free agents. Bobby Wagner is going to automatically bring attention to this team. Austin Eckler is going to bring attention. Even Frankie Louvu, perfect example. He is like a Pro Bowl caliber player for the Carolina Panthers, but a lot of people just don't really know he exists because he played for the Carolina Panthers and that dumpster fire that they had going there. Jeremy Chin has elite potential. Same team, Carolina Panthers deserves a lot more recognition than he's been getting. I promise you, we're about to start getting a lot more recognition. Even if we don't go out there and make the playoffs this year, just having a face of the franchise, a lot of household names already present, I think that's going to bring a lot more attention to this team. And I think a lot of guys that have been deserved a lot of credit are going to start to get more of it. And it seems like Samuel Cosmi is really like one of the first ones breaking through the barrier. It was like Terry McLaurin first, kind of like a mix of Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne. Samuel Cosmi's up next. I can't wait to see who else gets it. But continuing with Samuel Cosmi, getting away from that tangent, I did a whole video a few days ago, maybe like a week ago, breaking down how James Foster at No Flags Film, he's a film analyst covering the NFL and the NFL draft for A to Z Sports, and he literally just tweeted back on May 31st that Samuel Cosmi is my new offensive lineman, gonna be an all-pro in 1 to 2 years. Not a Pro Bowler, all Pro. This is James Foster right here saying that. And as you can see on your screen right now, these are the compilation of all 22 film analysis clips that he put together of Samuel Cosmi just completely dominating people as I'm talking right now. And like we talked about in that other video, first of all, my main reason to bringing this up is just to continue the trend of national recognition. Again, this guy is just a draft analyst for A to Z Sports, not a Commanders fan, not a Commanders reporter, beat writer, nothing. No attachment or bias towards or for the Commanders. And he just suddenly came across Samuel Cosmi and was like, wait a minute, why are people not talking about this guy? He is now my new favorite offensive lineman on the entire NFL, future All-Pro within the next 1 to 2 years. And continuing with what I talked about and broke down from a few days ago when I discussed that tweet from James Foster going to his Pro Football Focus grades, just to look at it, he had 1,103 offensive snaps last year, and he only had 4 penalties and only 1 sack allowed. He had an 80.6 overall grade, like I've already told you. He had a 74 pass blocking grade and an 80.9 run blocking grade. He only allowed 31 pressures, only allowed 4 QB hits. Those are elite stats. And again, just to talk about positions, this man played 0 snaps at any other position than right guard last year. All 1,103 of his snaps came from right guard last year. And to prove my point about what I was talking about from last year, in 2022, he played 517 snaps at right tackle. In 2021, he played 468 snaps at right tackle. This was his first season of ever playing more than 517 snaps at any position throughout his entire career so far, and no wonder that as the season went on, he got better and better, which is going to be the next part of this video that we talk about how, like, towards the second half of last season, maybe the first half, it was a little inconsistent, but again, it was his first time making a full transitional switch to right guard permanently. That's all you're doing is right guard, mainly a right tackle his first 2 seasons. Last year was his first time moving to right guard officially as like a full-time role, and you can notice that throughout the season he just got better and better. Literally, like, it started off like, decent games here and there and good games, off games. And then as of like week 11 on, he just became elite. Like, he was just an elite guy. Again, we're going to dive into that soon. But when you're talking about his ranking amongst all guards in the NFL, he finished 4th last year with that 80.6 overall grade, only behind Quinn Miners and Kevin Dotson and Chris Lindstrom. Then he have him ahead of John Feliciano, Robert Hunt, Greg Van Roten, Graham Glasgow, Joe Thuney, Trey Smith, Tyler Smith, Wyatt Taylor, Quentin Nelson, Zach Martin, Joel Bitonio, Brandon Sheriff, like Mark Glowinski, all of these top guards that we're talking about. Steve Avila, I know a lot of us wanted him in the draft. Cole Strange, Alex Kappa, Shaq Mason, Will Hernandez, all of these top guards that we all acknowledge as the top guards in the NFL. Samuel Cosmi was ahead of all of those names that I just gave you by the end of the season. But I think that's really interesting that they had him finishing 4th out of all guards in the NFL last year. They project him to move up to the 3rd spot by the end of 2024. So they basically see him improving, if anything, and potentially being an all-pro player. I mean, if you're one of the 3 best guards out of the entire NFL, how are you not all-pro? Because there's 2 guards in every team that has to start, which means that technically he could arguably be the best right guard in the entire NFL, or at worst top 2 right guards. So I think he could easily end up making the all-pro list, at the very least Pro Bowl. Now let's move on to some interesting stats. After our December 17th game against the Los Angeles Rams, where we lost 28-20, coming off of the bye week as well, when you're looking at the Commanders Pro Football Focus grades and ratings, as you see on the screen right now for the offensive line, Samuel Cosmi was the only even decent one, let alone great. I mean, Andrew Wiley at least had a 72.1. Everybody else was just unspeakably bad, and Samuel Cosmi was the only player that was good, great, dominant. 92 overall grade in the run, 89 fast overall grade in the pass, and Charles Leno 56.2 run, 81.4 pass. That's pretty good. Nick Gates 60 versus the run, 79.4 versus the pass. That's actually pretty solid against the pass, but terrible against the run. I mean, it just gets worse and worse. I mean, Charles Leno all the way at the bottom, 43.9 against the run, 26.3 against the pass. Samuel Cosmi was your only true bright spot on the offensive line that Rams game. Also in that Rams game, he was our highest graded offensive player, like out of all of them. Like, he was first with a 93.1. Jacoby Brissett was second with a 92. Terry McLaurin was third with an 88. Andrew Wiley was fourth with a 72.4, and Charles Leno was fifth with a 69.8 overall offensive grade. And then as of December 20th, again, we played the Rams on December 17th, but as of December 20th, Pro Football Focus tweeted out the fact that Samuel Cosmi had earned a 91.6 overall grade over the past 5 weeks up to that point, and he's the second highest graded guard in the NFL over that span. So again, once he started to heat up, he was one of the best guards in the entire NFL, and that's why Pro Football Focus, even though they had him the fourth highest graded one at the end of last season, they project him to be at least top 3 going into next season, because if he's continuing that momentum, if he never had those ugly games at the beginning of the season, he probably would have finished third or second in Pro Football Focus grade overall anyway. And so that's why you can see that, like, again, that last 5 weeks leading up to December 20th, that guy was the second best guard in the NFL, and 91.6 overall grade is insane. Then also after the December 24th game against the New York Jets, shouts out to Greg Zuerlein for that game winning kick so we can get Jaden Daniels. We lost that game 30-28. After that game, Samuel Cosmi, up to that point since week 10, had 221 pass blocking snaps, only 4 pressures allowed, 0 sacks allowed. He had 3 games with 0 pressures, crazy, and 3 games with an 80+ pass blocking grade. I mean, that is elite stuff right there. Also up to that point, in 15 games, Andrew Wiley is tied for first in the NFL with 13 sacks allowed. This is up till December 26th. On the season, he and Charles Leno have combined for a staggering 55 blown pass blocks, and don't forget that Leno missed 2.5 games as well. And the only starter to play 15 games, Cosmi, has only allowed 3 sacks, which is absolutely incredible. That's terrible. Also, before Leno and Wiley went out with injuries, they both as a tandem led the NFL in pressures allowed and blown blocks at the same time. So this is the offensive line that Samuel Cosmi had to work with. The reason I'm pointing out how bad everybody was around him was because you're only as good as the offensive lineman around you. You could be an all-pro right guard, but if your left tackle isn't that good, if your center's so bad that he was one of the first cuts we made after Adam Peters became your general manager, there's not much you can do. There's so much chemistry. There's so much you have to do to rely on the guy next to you, to your left or your right. And poor Samuel Cosmi was out there in ISO all of the time. They didn't have much good chemistry going, even though Andrew Wiley started to improve as the season went on. But there was no great chemistry there at all. I mean, and just the fact that he was able to do what he did statistically and grade-wise from Pro Football Focus with terrible offensive line play both to his left and his right. I mean, come on, man. And then after the December 31st game against the San Francisco 49ers, where we lost 27-10, Samuel Cosmi was the highest graded offensive player in the NFL since week 13 up to that point that we played the San Francisco 49ers again. December 31st, that was week 17. So from week 13 to week 17, he was the highest graded offensive player out of the entire NFL, regardless of position. We're talking about quarterbacks. We're talking about wide receivers. We're talking about tight ends. Everybody. We're talking about Pat Mahomes. We're talking about anybody you can think of. He was the highest graded offensive player. He allowed only 0 sacks and just 1 quarterback pressure in that span. Ridiculous, man. Week 13 to week 17, 92 overall grade, elite stuff. Arguably the best offensive player in the entire NFL over that span. Again, that's why we're expecting him to continue that momentum going into the next season. Again, and that's why I make my case that he's arguably the best player on our entire team. Again, from a 4-week span, week 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17, so technically my fault, 5-week span towards the end of the season last year, this guy was arguably the best offensive player out of the entire NFL, the most dominant player on offense, regardless of team. I feel like that makes an easy case for him to be the best player on our entire team, but maybe you say Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne, maybe you feel like Terry McLaurin if he got the right opportunities with a good quarterback and a good offensive coordinator, we'll see. But Samuel Cosmi, with all of the bad around him, like everybody else was dealing with, he still found a way as well. Then moving on, after the January 7th game against the Dallas Cowboys where we lost 38-10, Pro Football Focus's top 3 graded players on the Washington's offense for the 2023 season. Samuel Cosmi was number 1 with an 80.6. Again, by the end of the season, this was the final grade. Brian Robinson was second with a 75.3, and Terry McLaurin was third with a 75.1. Then you also had Kendall Fuller, who's now for the Miami Dolphins. He was our highest graded player on the entire team, but especially the defense as well, with an 83.1. Jamin Davis was the second with a 67.6. He's changing positions. And then Karen McCurl is gone now. He had a 66.6. So that's not a really good look. But again, Samuel Cosmi finished the year as the highest graded offensive player on the entire team, and only a lower grade than Kendall Fuller. Y'all know Pro Football Focus loves Kendall Fuller, and I already miss him now, but I think we have some great pieces and especially a great coaching staff to where we'll make up for it. But man, the Miami Dolphins got a good one in Kendall Fuller, I'm not gonna lie. But now moving on, Samuel Cosmi ranked 98th in Pro Football Focus's top 101 player countdown. They did a whole article breaking down the top 101 players out of the entire NFL. And I don't know, after the stats I just gave you, that he ranked all the way as low as 98th, but I believe he was the only player on that list for us. He finished with a 71.4 true pass blocking grade, 7th highest, only 1 sack allowed the entire season, 80.9 run blocking grade, 6th highest, and again 80.6 overall grade, which was the 4th highest. And when you read the article, why they have him ranked 98th, they said bumped inside the guard by Washington, Cosmi played his best football in 2023 despite an offensive line that was far from strong and a quarterback who consistently put the unit under unnecessary stress. Good point. I love Sam Howell. I think he's going to end up being a great quarterback for the Seahawks, but a lot of that was his fault. So that's another factor as to it's like even more amazing that Samuel Cosmi played as well as he did and only gave up the sacks that he did, because again, Samuel Cosmi was the cause of a lot of the sacks that were given up by the offensive line. Finishing up what they said, Cosmi allowed 1 sack all season and posted an 80.9 Pro Football Focus run grade. I'm telling you, man, elite stuff right here. And also, before we get up out of here, I do want to point out the fact that we finally have a good 2nd round pick. Shouts out to the Burgundy and Gold for finally getting a 2nd round pick right, even though it seemed like Rivera and company tried to do everything in their power to mess him up. First of all, again, like I spoke about in another video, Travell Wharton was supposed to be our offensive lines coach last year in 2023, right? At a certain point, he got hurt. I think it was like a back injury or something like that. He was gone for an extended period of time during the offseason, I believe. And at that point, Juan Castillo, who was already our tight ends coach and our run game coordinator, had to triple up and become our offensive lines coach as well. So this guy has to juggle the offensive line, he has to juggle the tight ends, and if he's the run game coordinator, he has to juggle the running backs as well. He had to deal with all 3 of those major parts of the team by himself. No wonder why he just retired and was like, yeah, I'm done with this, man. That was too much to have to go through in one season. So again, poor Samuel Cosmi. Right tackle, not good. Terrible the first half of the season. Got decent by the end of the season. You could argue maybe like right at average, maybe slightly below average. Your center to the left view was terrible. Again, one of the first cuts we made after Adam Peters got here. And then your offensive line coach is spread as thin as possible because your real offensive lines coach is hurt. So now the tight ends coach, running game coordinator has to step in and be like a part-time offensive lines coach throughout the most important part of your transition. You're going into your first season ever as a full-time right guard, and that's the coaching staff, the help that you have at your disposal as you're making that transition. No wonder why he was like a little on and off, a little inconsistent to start the season. Then he started to heat up towards the end of the season, and I'm not exactly sure how much coaching had anything to do with that other than just him going out there and improving himself. And then, I mean, just imagine what he's going to do with Jaden Daniels, his ability to run, his mobility, his ability to get the ball out quickly as well. I'm telling you, Samuel Cosmi is about to potentially make an all-pro this season. I'm so excited. At the very least, Pro Bowl. But at the end of the season, Samuel Cosmi has some really interesting things to say. Back on January 8th, Samuel Cosmi said, whoever comes in, his only goal is to, quote, win a Super Bowl, unquote. That ended up being Dan Quinn with Adam Peters and this elite coaching staff, this elite front office. So I'm hoping that Samuel Cosmi gets his wish, very selfishly as a fan, but also for him too, man. I'm thinking we're building this the right way. If he sticks around for a few more years, instead instead of leaving like Brandon Sheriff, I think we can truly go out there and be great. Also, Samuel Cosmi said, quote, I want to run the ball more. We needed more balance. Please let's run the rock, unquote. He said that basically like shouts out to the next coaching staff. Please don't come in here and have us pass blocking so much. That's another factor. Already told you about Andrew Wiley to his right. Nick Gates and the musical chairs we were playing at center, mostly due to injury, but also bad play as well. I think at a certain point, Nick Gates even got benched last year. So there was never any consistency to the left of him. And then the right tackle was Andrew Wiley. Then on top of that, Sam Howell was a lot to blame for the offensive line struggles. And then on top of that, Eric Bieniemy had, and this is what really set Sam Howell up for failure. Eric Bieniemy had this team throwing the ball all of the time. And like I say, like offensive linemen always say, it's not just a me thing. This is just a general well-known thing amongst football players that offensive linemen prefer to run block than the pass block more times than not. They prefer to move forward than to move backwards with how big they are. Why would you want to be moving backwards anyway? Even some of the guys that are better pass blockers than run blockers still prefer to just be able to know pre-snap, I'm about to run into this guy and move him out the way. Instead of me being in defense mode, I'm in attack mode. Offensive linemen prefer to run the ball anyway, just period, in normal circumstances. But then Eric Bieniemy had us passing the ball more than any other team in the NFL, so it wasn't even like a balance to where like maybe defenses can think, oh, okay, maybe they'll run the ball here, so maybe I won't attack the offensive lineman as if it's just like an automatic, obvious passing down situation. If you're a more balanced offense, the defense plays you differently. If they know you're definitely passing the ball, they attack you. And we were passing the ball so much that we had no balance. The defenses knew we were more than likely passing it, that they attacked us with a certain level of aggression that's almost impossible as an offensive lineman to deal with snap after snap after snap, man. So Eric Bieniemy also on top of the right tackle, the center, Sam Howell's inability to avoid sacks and get the ball out of his hands, and then Eric Bieniemy on top of all of that with his atrocious play calling and run pass balance, just made everything as hard as possible on Samuel Cosmi, and he still somehow ended up being the flower that came out of the concrete. And Samuel Cosmi, even at the end of the season on January 8th, said something out loud about Eric Bieniemy's play calling, like he basically set us up for failure. He also had another quote. You could actually see this clip right here. I can show it to you.
I'm tired of just not playing good football, sloppy football. I mean, you saw all year, it was just really, really sloppy football, and I hated it. I just hate being a part of that. And so I want to be around a winning culture. I want to be around a winning team and people that just want to die to win, you know? And so,
I mean, he just seems so fed up in this exit interview, man. He's just sick of it. And I feel like we've done a great job doing everything that we can thus far to build a future Super Bowl contender. Are we one today? No. But I feel like we've made the right hires in the coaching staff, the front office. I feel like we've done a great job in free agency, a great job in the draft, and hopefully things come into fruition to where Samuel Cosmi does not want to leave us like Brandon Sheriff did. We already had an all-pro right guard at one point in time, and he was just sick of our stuff, sick of where the organization was headed. He was like, I'm out. I'll just go to the Jaguars for... I mean, he didn't even get a lot of money to go there. He dipped, and it's not even like he got like a significant pay raise compared to what we were potentially going to give him. And hopefully we don't do the same thing with Samuel Cosmi. And again, with the coaching staff, the front office, and everything that we've built so far, I think we've done a great enough job to convince this guy to stick around, be an all-pro for us, and we're going to build a great team around you that you want to play for, that you want to be a part of. I'm excited. But again, in conclusion, Samuel Cosmi is the best player on the entire Washington Commanders roster. Hopefully, Jaden Daniels ultimately is the best player on the entire roster, because if he is, that's how you win Super Bowls. But right now, today, Samuel Cosmi is our best player. Again, we got to see Terry McLaurin with an actual good quarterback and offensive coordinator, and maybe he takes off and he gets a lot more looks and more admiration around the NFL, around the national media and things like that. But I'm telling you right now, today, Samuel Cosmi is our best player. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please still farm that like button, still farm the subscription button, still farm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned for all of the content. Again, even if it's very late, I'm making sure I'm not missing a day. So technically, this video counts as June 8th. But, you know, yeah, if you doing technicalities. Technically, this is June 9th. I'm going to be busy June 9th, but I'm going to try my best to try to get a video out before 12 a.m. on June 9th as well. So within like a 24-hour span, I'm trying to at least get a video out there for y'all. So make sure y'all just stay tuned, man. I really appreciate y'all. I'm working on so much content. I have a lot of video ideas like this one that is just out of the blue and random, basically like research projects, basically not like any major news that has happened today concerning the Commanders. I'm just doing deep dives into random things, random thoughts, random ideas. I'm also working on putting a live stream together for y'all because I know y'all been really wanting a live stream and a call-in show, so stay tuned for that. I can't wait, especially when we have this dead period for the Commanders. It's really no reason to not be firing up call-in live shows at least once every 2 weeks or something like that. So make sure you stay tuned for all of that. I really appreciate y'all. Do not leave this video without leaving a like, and also make sure you leave a comment. Let me know if you agree or disagree with any of my points or any of these points that anybody else brought up in this video, like Pro Football Focus or the NFL draft analyst and James Foster, who works for A to Z Sports. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. I'm gonna try my best to read and reply to as many comments as possible, so make sure y'all stay tuned, stay patient with me. I really appreciate y'all. Catch y'all later. I'm out.